Indonesia is home to some of the world's dirtiest rivers, polluted by decades of domestic and industrial waste. Every year, some 50,000 people die prematurely due to poor sanitation. Now, a $500 million cleanup program promises to give Indonesia's rivers a new lease of life. But there are concerns endemic corruption and mismanagement may get in the way. I'm Fauziah Ibrahim. On this edition of 101 East, we ask, can Indonesia save its rivers? Every day, untreated sewage and industrial waste are dumped directly into Jakarta's waterways. Without access to clean water, many people are cooking, drinking and washing out of these canals and rivers. Kathy Hearn reports.
The current situation actually is desperate. They feel, of course, a very bad environment. They feel very bad smell from the rivers. But they don't feel that there is a need to do something on sewerage in Jakarta. They have rights to get a proper clean water and sanitation.
These are Jakarta's new fishermen. The real fish have long since vanished, suffocated under the rubbish from millions of homes and factories. The rivers have become the city's dumping ground, where children and pensioners fish for something of value.
Anything you want to find. You can find a mattress, the used mattress, you can find maybe a motorcycle.
But mainly what they're looking for is plastic and old clothes that can be used or sold.
I've been scavenging here for almost 5 months. I'm doing this so my little brother can go to school in the village, because my family is poor, so I have to earn money for them.
Most of these children no longer go to school. Their day starts early, alongside private cleanup companies hired by the government, who are fighting a losing battle against the ever-increasing tons of waste. But despite the toxic surroundings, the boys told us they weren't worried about getting sick.
I used to get very itchy on my skin, but now I've gotten used to it.
Upstream, the river has been polluted by chemical waste from factories and spoilt by erosion from over-farming. The filth and sediment is choking the river and letting less water through. This means more power outages are inevitable, as most of Jakarta's electricity comes from a generator upstream. Here, the river passes through the Muaru Baru community, home to 76-year-old Miss Riati. She came from East Java to look for work after her husband died.
I've been doing this for 36 years. I collect it, weigh the stuff, and take it to the recycle place across the river. I work from dawn till evening and earn between $1 and $5 a day. It's unpredictable.
Risiana Sukama works as a consultant for the World Bank. One of his projects is a $23.5 million scheme to start dredging Jakarta's rivers and canals, but it keeps on getting postponed.
Bureaucracy is one of the things, yeah. I may say from both sides, from the government as well as from the bank side. The bank has a lot of procedures and requirements.
Does it frustrate you?
It is really frustrating. So it's really quite painful process, yeah.
It's just as frustrating for Ms. Rati to live right next door to a river of rubbish. She said it didn't look like this when she first arrived.
I would much prefer the river to be clean, but if it's dirty like now, I have no choice. And I'm too old to change jobs, as I don't have the energy.
And the problem gets worse. About 20% of people living in Jakarta don't even have access to a toilet. So this and other waste often ends up in rivers and canals like this one. The city council estimates 2,000 cubic meters of solid waste ends up here every day. That's about 8,000 bathtubs full of rubbish.
The current situation actually is desperate because first we will face the problems such as water shortage.
due to the climate change, and secondly, it's about the mismanagement in water distribution system, especially in urban areas.
Vincent Poi says the drive to privatize water means that poor people suffer the most, paying more per litre than their richer neighbours. Water vendors, both legal and illegal, are a lifeline for the thousands of communities who don't have access to piped water, as they can no longer rely on well water being safe to drink.
Actually, it's not a clean water because it's already contaminated by the domestic waste and industrial waste. And the bad drainage make the wells got much worsened.
Samayati uses contaminated well water because she can't afford to buy more from the water vendor. She's aware of the health risks, but says she has little choice.
Sempat khawatir, takutnya ntar.
Yes, I'm concerned about it. I'm afraid we might get ill from the water because we use it for drinking and washing. I'm worried we will get skin rashes.
Public health specialists are concerned by how fast waterborne diseases are spreading in Indonesia. The World Bank says poor sanitation causes 50,000 premature deaths per year, and diarrhea-related diseases affect another 89 million people around the country. Today, Indonesia's government has recognized the need for urgent action. It says it needs about $3.3 billion to fix the problem. Part of the funds will come from a $500 million loan by the Asian Development Bank, or ADB. It's proposing a cleanup project which will take 15 years.
It's a huge amount of money, right? And it's no longer a secret that our government is corrupt.
Last year, Indonesia was rated by Transparency International as the most corrupt country in Asia. But the government says it's working closely with groups like the ADB and World Bank to put in place anti-corruption measures.
I think this is the concern of everybody, the bank as well as the government. That's why we are trying to make a lot of safeguard from the project point of view. For instance, we have a setup of so-called anti-corruption action plan. This is a new regulation from the bank that we have to prepare that in order for us to make sure that the project is not corrupted.
But in reality, will it work?
Well, this is something else.
I'm working for NGO that monitors the project and programs of the ADB, and we also share our information and train communities and other NGOs, local NGOs, how to monitor a certain project that is coming from the ADB or the World Bank. And when we did a training in 2008, we found out about this project.
Working together, several NGOs have pooled their resources to create the People's Alliance for Citarum.
We're not really opposing of the ADB plan, but we're opposing actually of how ADB is going to implement the project. What we see is not really going to solve any problems. And there are still so many loopholes, there are still so many questions there that hasn't been answered yet.
A major concern is the resettlement of people living along the West Tarum Canal, which links the Citarum River with Jakarta. Although the water looks cleaner here, it's still heavily contaminated. Rehabilitating it is the first stage of the cleanup project.
Ibu, Missy Ibu.
This small building is part of nearly 900 households that will be bulldozed. Although the ADB says it's consulted with them about relocation plans, the village head says this isn't the case.
Nih Pak, nama Pak Acep ada kan? Iya. Nih, dia cuman bilang, dia cuman bilang bahwa ini adalah nama-nama yang ikut serta pertemuan di rumah Pak RT tanggal 23 April 2007 teh. Dikumpulin, bukan cuman pendataan. Nggak ada.
Part of the ADB plan includes consultation with communities, but the People's Alliance say this hasn't been done properly.
We need for them to review all the project and really explain the details on how this will be affecting people, on how will be benefiting people. That's simple. Not only promoting the project as if this is only for business as usual. No, this is not, because there are thousands of people depending to water and also the river. because water is life, right?
But for Ms. Riyati and millions of other Indonesians, water appears to be a right only affordable by the rich.
We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll discuss controversial new plans to clean up Indonesia's polluted waterways. Stay with 101 East. Welcome back to 101 East. This week we come to you from Jakarta, Indonesia, where plans are underway to clean up the country's dirtiest rivers and canals. Joining us to discuss the nation's water woes are Arimbi Heroepoetri from the People's Alliance for Citarum. Donny Azdan is the Director of Water Resources and Irrigation Department, and Thomas Panella is from the Asian Development Bank. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. Arimbi, if I can just start with you, there are many contributing factors to Indonesia's polluted waterways, but if you could pick the one major factor, what would it be?
The problem is in the attitude of the human to love to throw everything to the river. So it creates more pollution, but it adds with the policy. So far, I can identify at least 58 laws, regulation to regulate Citarum itself. So it creates a confusion when who's doing what in the field.
Donny, would you say there's far too much bureaucracy, and that's why that is a contributing factor to Indonesia's polluted waterways?
Well, I think that we have to see more clearly in this, especially on the Citarum project. It is not only the river that we are dealing with, but Citarum we try to do differently. In Citarum, we implement what we call the integrated water resource management, which is all the sector, all the stakeholders doing together to cleaning and to make the Citarum clean up. So this is what the program, and the program takes about 15 or 20 years, but at least the base of the activities is coming from the people themselves.
Thomas, what do you think is the main contributing factor to Indonesia's polluted waterways?
I agree with Arimbi that I think raising public awareness to respect the river and that it's not just a garbage pail or a sewage dump, but then also providing education and ways for people to treat the river better. That's one of the things that the ADB project will do, is working with local communities on environmental management, on watershed protection, on providing clean water and sanitation. So it's awareness and then providing opportunities to act on that.
Donny, you were talking about over the next 15 years or so, this program will be implemented to clean up Indonesia's waterways. But the problem has been there for decades and decades now. Why now? Why has it been there for so long? Why has the government now decided that it's time to clean up Indonesia's canals and rivers?
We learned from our fail in the past. Usually, the river cleaning is only the responsibility of one ministry, which is the Ministry of Public Works. But it is not only the Ministry of Public Works that also dealing in this river, but also other ministries.
And this is what Arimbi was talking about earlier on as well. There's far too much bureaucracy. Is that what you're saying, Arimbi?
That's true. There's a level on the provincial level, it's level on central government, and also on district level. So when you know, people in general would like to ask, what should we do with the river? They need to go to every different levels of the government.
Thomas, the ADB will be lending Indonesia $500 million over the next 15 years for this cleanup program. How confident are you that bureaucracy won't get in the way, corruption won't get in the way, and that this program will be a success?
With regard to the bureaucracy, we are taking an integrated approach involving the districts, the provincial governments, and the federal governments. And there's been a lot of dialogue, many workshops, and trying to put together a roadmap, a plan that's not just the ADB program, but a program in general for all the stakeholders to participate. And to me, that's one unique aspect of the project. With regard to making the bureaucracy work, we can facilitate, but really it's leadership here in Indonesia that will do that. In terms of the corruption, ADB has zero tolerance on corruption. We have measures in place for procurement, yearly audits. If there's any sign of corruption, we investigate, projects stop. We just don't tolerate it.
I think I have problem in the design of the project, which is funded by the ADB. The project is not really mentioned about how to reduce the pollution itself. It's Donny mentioned it's 15 years, and the first tranche would be sometimes this year till next year, but it doesn't tell about how to reduce the pollution.
So you're saying there are no actual goals that have been set in place
or to reduce the pollution, yes,
to monitor how successful the program will be?
Well, I think this is has to be remembered also. The river is like a trash bin. So to change this, it takes time. Before we do activities, that we need to change the people first.
It's a very wide program, isn't it?
Yes.
Thomas, where do you start?
I think many of the problems are interrelated, tied to people's livelihoods, pollution, upstream, downstream. I think starting anywhere is a good start rather than doing nothing. So what this project tries to do is, one, build a vision and a plan for the long term, how everyone can come together and try and address the problems. And then in this first set of investments, try and stimulate things. We have a component on developing water pollution management plans for the district governments in the upper basin, working with local communities on watershed management, on improved agricultural practices using less water and less chemical input. It's a mix of a variety of things, and as the program moves along, hopefully we can scale that up. But again, it's not ADB, it's government that needs to take the lead on this.
But I think that we have to remember also that when we identify the problem of Citarum, we need about 90 to 100 activities. And this 90 activities that needs about $3.5 billion. 500 million is nothing. I mean, this is the one that showing that ADB is supporting us, but it is not all the fund is coming from ADB.
Arimbi, Donny just said that, ADB is funding, but Thomas also said that it is leadership from the Indonesian government that is needed. How confident are you that this program will actually work?
We don't oppose the loan, but we need to think carefully about the design of the project.
Do you think the ADB has consulted enough with NGOs?
No, that's my point. I don't think so. You go to the river, ask the people, they don't know. We went to the Bekasi several times, they don't know. They didn't know. If we observe the paper from ADB, they said they conducted several public consultation. It's not really public consultation, it's just like a workshop, asking people coming and sitting together.
Thomas, what's your response?
I disagree with that. I think in preparation, I think Arimbi's speaking specifically of the West Tarim Canal, and there was significant consultation, 25 or 30 meetings with local communities while the project was being prepared. As the work moves forward, we'll be increasing the communication. Again, this was during preparation. Now during implementation, we have a communications team, strategy in place. And again, I think community involvement was one of the key pillars of putting this program together. And I think Donny can attest that in development of the roadmap, there was significant consultation.
Yeah, I think that we need to prepare in 3 years in preparation of this roadmap. And it is about 30 meetings with the stakeholder. And I think there are also 120 NGOs around this Citarum, but maybe one or two NGOs maybe is not included. I don't know why, maybe they don't want to involve. But I think there's a lot of discussion, a lot of stakeholder meeting, and I think, I don't know, I think it is still a lot of work to do.
A lot to be done. There's also the issue of the resettlement program, isn't it? We're talking about people who live along these riverbanks, along these canals. What's going to happen to them?
Well, sometimes it is the dilemma of the government also. And one thing, most of the people are illegal settlers. So it should be not there. But they're already there.
Well, what are you going to do with them? Are you going to remove them? Are you going to resettle them somewhere else?
this is usually we resettle. We have like a compensation for them. But now the regulation is very strict. You cannot really make a compensation to one that is illegal settlement, and this is one that is dilemma for us. But I think there is also a program that we prepare to make more kind of compensation, but different kind of compensation.
Arimbi, are you happy with the government's efforts in terms of the resettlement program?
Of course, no. There is no place to resettle the people there. The ADB claimed that around 172 households will be resettled, but so far we don't know where would they go.
Well, Thomas, let's throw that question to you. Where will they go?
Well, I mean, ADB does have very strict resettlement guidelines, and this project falls under those. We've prepared a comprehensive plan that, now that work is starting, the plan will be updated, and compensation will be paid to people who would be evicted under the ADB project, and also will be paid to people who were evicted by local government for a project that had nothing to do with ADB.
What about the people that Donny mentioned, you know, those who are illegal settlers along the...
Nobody there has legal title, but in terms of compensation, they won't get compensation for land because they don't own the land, but for productive assets, trees, crops they'd lose, household goods, yes, they will receive compensation. And then there's a livelihoods training program that's available not only to the affected people, but the entire community of Bekasi, in trying to provide alternative means of income for these people who will be resettled, find them a place to go. And this program will be starting in the next 2 or 3 months.
I am going to have to wrap the discussion up. So just final words, really. This program will go ahead. It's $500 million over the next 15 years to clean up Indonesia's waterways. Thomas, what do you think will be the main factor to ensure that this program will be a success?
Again, I think it's engaging the stakeholders and getting the awareness on the river at all levels, from the community, all levels of government, private sector. Everybody needs to work together with this vision of cleaning up the river. We can finance and help facilitate, but at the end of the day, it's Indonesia that needs to take the lead.
Donny?
It is the commitment of the stakeholder, because we are working still far away, 15 years from now. And then hopefully another 15 years we have this interview and with a very good, nice and Citarum.
Arimbi, Thomas has said it all lies on the Indonesian government. Donny has said that it all lies on the stakeholders. What is your opinion?
I think the project, it won't go nowhere if the design still like this. Yeah? I don't see the participation has fully implemented in this area, and we need to see the design of the project once again.
I'm afraid we're going to have to leave the discussion there. And that's all the time we have for this edition of 101 East. You can always keep up to date with the program through our website, podcast, as well as Facebook. From the team here in Jakarta, Indonesia, thanks for watching.